Welcome everybody to the big show, Service Drive Revolution. Today, we're gonna talk about the different categories of service advisors. You know, in industries like, let's say coaching, you have coaches that are the player's coach, not the player's coach, right? Yep. There's all kinds of different categories that people fall into, and Christian has a list of categories for service advisors. And when we go through this list, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I know that one. Yep, I know that one. Oh, I am that one, or I was that one. It's a pretty funny list and it's great stuff. Also, we're going to talk about your feedback from his trying to get an oil change debacle, and kind of surprised us, the feedback a little bit, and much, much more coming up on this episode of Service Drive Revolution. Doing a strategy session yesterday, and it was for a Toyota store. The manager was really sweet, and he said, I just listened to Christian talking about his experience trying to get an oil change, and he said, I feel like you were describing our service drive. Like,
oh no.
And I was like, no, it's, you know, here in Southern California, but it's kind of funny the reaction people had to that, because most people in the comments on YouTube kind of sided with the dealership saying you were wrong.
That I was wrong.
And I feel like you are missing the point, in the sense that we can't build our business around how we want to do it. We have to give the customer a vote. You want the customer to feel like it was easy to do business with us. And more, our industry is, well, I mean, if you're talking about a dealership service department, it's just funny in the sense that 80% of customers, this isn't a number we're making up. Like 80% of customers go to Independence when they're out of warranty.
Let them, they didn't make an appointment.
Yeah. It's just like, so we have, as a dealership, we have home field advantage. We have the ability to create a relationship because they have to come to us. They have to come to us for warranty. We have all this opportunity to make them feel good, and we think that, you know, it's on the customer. It's just it's an odd take to me that that's how people feel. I adamantly disagree with you if that's your take.
Well, I think there's a couple of things there. The first is, I just want, if this whole discussion, the end result is that we acknowledge we can get better. I think that that's a huge part of it. And I would say to the people that think that, yes, it's the customer's fault if they don't make an appointment. That's true if they don't make an appointment. I think in 12 months, we're going to be having a very, very different discussion about where are all the customers, and we'll have to replay this part where we had the customers and they just went somewhere else because we made it too difficult for them. Yeah. So I think in this particular case...
That's already happening, 80%. What kind of a business can sustain long-term losing 80%?
I think it's tough. And I think that, you know, one of the things I would say is I thought I was realistic with my expectations. Obviously I wasn't, but like I wasn't going in there expecting to get put to the front of the line. Like I would say I had probably more realistic expectations than a regular customer that doesn't know the business. I think that in general, people have it in their head that like an oil change is an hour or less. So the expectation is there. And not only is the expectation there, are there places they can go and get an oil change in an hour or less within 5 blocks of wherever they're standing. So I'm just saying that the market is such that there are people that can actually execute on that kind of thing, and we have to be aware of the climate of the market. So I think
we have to build it to that.
We have to, and we can. And then the other part of it, I think the thing that I want to make sure isn't missed on that for that whole visit was that I think the worst part about it was the purgatory part. I don't know if you remember talking about that, where like I was forced into a line of people that were punished for not having an appointment, and I wasn't told anything for an hour and a half before then I was told it was going to be 8 hours. Like to me, I feel like if right when I pulled up, they're like, hey, we're backed up, we're completely full, I would have been like, man, I understand that. I know that there's times are tough right there. They'd be like, you're way better off coming back in a couple of days and making a blah, blah, blah. But I could have made a decision. I didn't have to invest an hour and a half of my day into it to find out that it was going to be 8 hours. Yeah. So I'm just saying that like there were hopefully in that example that everybody sees there was opportunities for it to be better than it was. So did I make...
If you don't know what he's talking about, maybe go back an episode and listen. But he took his girlfriend's Toyota in for an oil change, and they were booked out weeks. And so he decided just to drive in because she puts a lot of miles on her car. And then, long story short, our clients, big auto group, huge, like what, second largest in the country?
Yeah, it's a big group.
Right downtown here.
Easy. As a matter of fact, I never talked to a human, just through text.
That's my dream.
It was so wonderful. And I did make an appointment, right? Maybe that was a good lesson for me, is to make sure that I'm always making an appointment no matter how basic it is. But I dropped the thing off at 7. I didn't even talk to anybody on the drop-off. I used the night drop. And then I said, here's what I need done. I need to pick it up by 5:30. It was 7 in the morning, so I gave them all day with the thing anyways. And then if I dropped off at 7, they contacted me by 7:10 via text. And actually, they upsold me, which I was really impressed with. So
what did they sell you?
An oil change package. Oh. So I was pretty impressed with that,
Not
too.
an alignment?
No. So no one sold me an alignment yet.
I know you need an alignment.
There's no doubt I need an alignment. I'm just waiting for someone to tell me. But
maybe a suspension.
That's funny. But it was a really nice, easy experience.
Most people, when they see a roundel in the middle, you know, like an intersection where you go around,
yeah, Christian
just goes right over the top.
What's the shortest way between two distances? Straight
line. What's the best thing for the suspension?
Well, I mean, you gotta work it out a little bit. Otherwise, it gets
best thing for the suspension is to follow the road, not to go through the planter in the middle.
Yeah, I'm not really a good driver, you know, and I don't know if I ever told you this before, but I got fired from a job once. I used to work in a calendar factory, but they fired me for taking a couple of days off. But that's okay. Don't worry about that, because I also had a friend at the same exact time also got fired from his job. He was a taxi driver. And apparently customers didn't appreciate him going the extra mile. Doubled up on you there.
Christian is so funny. Oh man. So we were in Florida, and so we have this new leadership training that we're doing in the kind of, you know, leadership at SET, Southeast Toyota, was kind enough to let us go do it there, and we had so much fun, and it was great. But it's new content, so I'm doing 2 days worth of content. I have all these notes. There's a bunch of layers to it, right? Because we're doing a little pregame, so before they get there, there's a lot going on, and some of it's kind of intimate in the stories I'm telling, and it's a very personal thing.
Yeah, you're connected to it.
Yeah, I'm connected. Well, the audience the people in the class get connected.
It's transformational.
Yeah, and so, I'm thinking about all this, and like literally 1 minute before it's supposed to start both days, Christian walks up to me and tells me the most inappropriate joke, and then just walks away. And so later in the day, because I didn't, like, sometimes when somebody tells you an inappropriate joke, I wish I had somebody else here to talk to, because I can't ask you, like, hey, does it ever make you feel guilty when somebody tells you an inappropriate joke? Because you don't feel that. Oh. But I sometimes feel a little guilt of the, like, oh my gosh, I'm laughing at that.
I can see where some of the jokes I tell you would make you do that. Yeah.
You know, in that...
The Chappelle thing?
The Chappelle thing. So there's this great Chappelle stand-up special on Netflix called Sticks and Stones, yep, where he walks out, and he the beginning of it, over the credits, he's reading part of a Prince song, the lyrics of Prince song, and then the camera comes on, and he's standing in front of an auditorium, And he says, the good people of Atlanta, we live in a time where Anthony Bourdain killed himself, where he starts to say Anthony Bourdain, the crowd starts to laugh.
No, they're clapping and cheering.
Yeah. But they're conditioned that he's going to crack a joke. And then you can tell the crowd's like, oh, what? What? We can't laugh at that, but it's too late. I feel like you're like you just like getting over on people.
Yep,
You don't feel any guilt.
I like to ride that edge like that.
So later that afternoon, I asked Christian, I'm like, I was kind of saying like, hey, you don't need to say that or whatever. And then he goes, no, it relaxes you. Like, no,
I made the decision
honestly,
for him.
It doesn't relax me. Like, no, it does. You need,
Do you remember what I used as the justification?
No, what did you say?
So I think I said this at the end of day 2. You're like, man, like you got to stop doing that. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to say that this was the best that you've ever done.
Yeah,
both days I told
you took credit for how it went.
It has nothing to do with the hours and weeks and months of preparation.
No, it was your
content
your
and
inappropriate
research.
joke
It
at
was
the
bad
beginning that
jokes,
made it good. But then you did it again the second day, right as it was supposed to start. You walk up and you're like, kind of like your segue on here. You're like, I was driving through the
where I snuck it in on you, weren't sure. Yeah.
So funny. Okay, let's talk about the different types of service advisors. I think that you've had some fun with this. This is pretty funny. It's a great idea.
I think that everyone's going to relate to, I don't know, if you've been writing service for a year, you've probably worked with darn near all of these people.
For sure.
So I think that that's kind of fun, and it's a lighthearted list at the end of the day, and it's really just kind of give everybody a little bit of entertainment. But it doesn't hurt if there's a lesson there where if you end up finding yourself almost classifying yourself as one of these people,
there's hope.
There you can fix that, right? So so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 of these bad boys. All right. So the first one, which is my personal favorite, and I think that, I don't know if you remember this, we did this episode a long, long time ago where it was like the worst 4-letter words that service advisors say. So this first advisor is the, I was just going to call you.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
That they're always so far behind. They're like, oh, I got to call this guy. I got to call this person. I got to call this person. I got to get this answer to this tech. I got to get this part ordered. And they're like always so far behind.
I always hate that when I call somebody and they say, oh, I was just thinking about you.
Do you ever say liar?
No, but I think it.
Yeah.
Ends up calling people a liar to their face. Usually doesn't work out good.
It's too far through the front door.
Too honest.
Mm-hmm. I get that. So everyone knows that I was just going to call you. My second one on this is the advisor that is all business, no fun, which looks you right in the eye when you pull into the service drive as a customer and furrows the brow and says, "Do you have an appointment?" That's the all business, no fun. So we've all seen that one before.
Yeah, just almost robotic.
Yeah, they're just there to write. Yep, write paper, put paper here, get paper back, put paper over here.
That advisor also, their favorite thing is, oh, well, our policy.
Oh, that's a good one for sure.
Our policy is that unless you're 35, you can't have a loaner.
Wouldn't it be funny as if there's like a little band? It's like 35 to 38 is the age for the loaner, because at 38 the insurance is going up. It's too expensive.
No, what'd be funny is if it was 35, but if somebody was like, say 29, you're like, could you get your parents to come in and co-sign or whatever?
That's pretty good too. I like it.
You don't consider you an adult until you're 35.
Yeah. So, all right. This next one, I don't think we have to bleep this one out, but everyone probably knows.
Probably means we do.
Okay, fair. But I call this advisor the humper. So this is the advisor that anytime you want to find them, you're like, hey, where's Brock at? He's up at the cashier window.
Yeah.
He's over at the reception
and the
desk.
cashier might be attractive.
Yes.
And then you know what happens in that scenario is when you eliminate cashiers and you have advisors cashier their own stuff, where does Brock end up?
BDC.
Oh, I was going to say the front.
Oh, yeah.
Reception, like in sales.
That's right. That would
But
do it too.
Brock finds a new object of his affection.
Yes. Brock's not stopping. I love Brock.
The humper.
So that's the humper. The next, this is one of my favorite ones. As a manager, I really liked this advisor. I call them the showstopper. It's always like, look what I did. Like every time they sell a big maintenance or they get a big job, it's look what I did. Look what I did. They want to get credit for every single great thing that they've done, which I think that's kind of cool. At least they're showing pride in it, and they know that they're trying to do the right thing.
They're looking for validation.
They're looking for validation, which is really easy to give them. So I like that advisor a lot. The one that's actually like, hey, this is my body of work. This is my career. So I kind of like the showstopper.
The showstopper usually has good team spirit too.
That's right.
Usually a team player.
Yeah, that's a really good point I didn't think about. This next one's one of my favorite ones. I call this the lawyer. So this is the one that actually is like a customer's coming in and they're like, I've got this concern, and they're like, yeah, no, the manufacturer's not going to cover that. That's technically not a defect. If I look up bylaw 422.68, yeah, that's not going to be a covered component. Like literally, they are counsel for the manufacturer. That same person also is the one that's coming in to the manager's office and being like, yeah, so I helped that customer out on September 24th of 2014. They're back today for their brakes. I feel like that should be my ticket. Like the lawyer loves to give you those things. So I really like the lawyer too. I always think that that's funny to hear them really advocating on the part of the manufacturer. So the lawyer's kind of like the manufacturer advocate. But then we've got the customer advocate. Right? Now, I do think that in general, as service advisors, you represent the customer, but there might be times where you go a little bit too far for that. And this is the advisor that comes in and they're always like, can we do this for the customer? And
those advisors also usually tend to discount.
Yes. So there's probably a punchline to that maybe you'll hit. Can we do this? Can we split this? Split the cost of this job with the customer?
Yeah.
Things that I'll get asked, but really,
you're looking at the R and you're like, okay, so it's got 100,000 miles on it. They've changed the oil once.
Yep. Somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Yeah. They haven't been here since the car was new.
Somewhere else used those great filters that are made out of paper mache.
That's right.
Inside. Yeah.
So that's the customer advocate. But really, at the end of the day, when they're doing the discount and they're asking for the extra above and beyond, what is it that their problem is?
What?
I think it's themselves. They're not seeing the value of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a self-confidence issue.
Yeah, well, they get their value out of trying to give stuff away versus understanding that people actually can't work on their cars themselves.
That's right.
That's the punchline.
Yeah, that's a really good punchline. All right, now, in contrast to the customer advocate, our next advisor is what I call the tech advocate. So I'm sure you guys have seen this where every time the advisor has a repair order, they're coming into the manager's office saying, hey, can we get John another half hour, another 2/10, or there was a little bit of rust on the wheel on this. Can we get in a little bit of extra, like where they're always fighting for the technician? And I think you do have a lot of times where you should be fighting for the techs when it's legitimate, 100%. And the other thing that I notice about the tech advocate, they're typically pretty well liked in the shop. So there might be some lessons to glean out of that, but that tech advocate where they're always asking for something extra for the tech, I think that's so funny. Then my personal favorite is the advisor that I call Obi-Wan, where it's like they wave their hand and the tech does what they're supposed to. They wave their hand and their coworkers do what they're supposed to, and then they wave their hand at the customer and the customer's like, whatever it needs, go ahead and do it. Like they literally are the master of the universe at that point. They never get rattled. No matter how many tickets they've written, they're still under control. They don't have a mess at their desk. They're way ahead. They're communicating with the customers as opposed to making the customers call in and ask for them and get stuck in the hold purgatory. That's OB1. That's the next level advisor. Then I've got two more, and then I think my list is coming to the end. And
I think I have a bonus one. The OB1, I think Hassan. So Hassan is he works in the Hudson Group.
Yes,
Like he worked for our clients, and then he worked for us for a little while. But man, he was OB1 in the sense that techs fought to be on his team.
That's right.
So he took very good care of his techs, but if he said something, they did it. Same thing with customers. He had this control of customers, and he had the ability, like I many times saw him write 3 customers at the same time. He'd be like, sit, you do that. Like, he was like that. Is that who you were thinking of when you were?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was special.
Yeah. So I was gonna originally call that the GOAT, but I think OB1 kind of made more sense.
We called him the GOAT for a long time.
So I think that the thing was it was almost mystical the way that he got people to do his bidding. So that's why I went that way. The next one is probably a cousin of the customer advocate, but the wallet seller.
So wallet seller in the fact that they have their wallet in front of their face, they can't see through it.
That's right.
Yeah. So they're the ones that you're like, well, why didn't you tell the customer they needed this? And they're like, oh, they couldn't have afforded it. And you're like, well, but you got to offer it to them. Or like they're almost talking customers out of it before, instead of just selling value.
They're the ones most likely to pair a 10-line list into a 2-line list.
And they're okay with a customer driving around with an unsafe car because they drive around with bald tires or whatever, right? Because they're so cheap. They think so little of themselves that they project that on everybody else.
Yeah, the wallet seller is least likely to do maintenance on their own vehicle.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a really good point.
They're the worst.
Yeah. And then
they also the only mode is usually to discount. They'll discount before they even talk about the price. I mean, that happened to us today, right? We're buying chairs. We had to pay whatever they were.
We were a captive audience.
We were in a situation where we had to have chairs today, and supply and demand is an issue. I don't know if you guys have heard, but they had chairs, and we needed the chairs. And then the lady's like, I'm going to give you 30% off.
Without asking, without expecting, it was
you
sweet.
You gotta give some credit to the beard and my, just how handsome I am.
You're quite charming.
In that scenario, I think.
Yeah.
But she would maybe be that, or she's just has good taste.
Well, there's also, what could have been different though, is she looked up your purchase history.
Oh yeah, I told her when we went in there, I said, we've been customer of the day before.
Yeah, no, he's like customer of the month.
we've spent some money there.
But
I like that furniture store.
Yeah, but I don't think you're not buying there because of the discount.
I did not expect a discount in the sense that she was giving us stuff off the showroom floor that's going to take her months to replace.
Yes, she was solving a
problem.
There's
a value to that.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to say no to the discount, but we were buying either way.
Yep. And
we got a bunch of people coming here and we need chairs, and we don't want them to sit in folding chairs.
That's right. And if you had left there, paid full price, and still the phenomenal service that she gave
would
you,
have been
she pulled
elated.
stuff on, you could have paid full price and bragged to everybody about the experience.
I mean, when we went in there, she said that she would give us 2 chairs off the showroom floor, and we walked out with 6.
6 chairs.
Yeah.
Which was exactly what we needed. You did some Obi-Wan stuff there. That was pretty good.
Beard, I'm telling you, you should think
about
growing it. That baby face of yours is costing you 30%.
That's as far as I would get is thinking about growing a beard. My kid's fascinated with my mustache. He calls it the bigote.
Oh.
Which is Spanish.
He'll look good with a mustache when he grows up.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, and then we have the last one. And I think that for this reason alone is the biggest challenge for tech going to service advisor. And this is the drive diagger.
Like the former tech.
The former
that
tech.
diagnoses everything before it gets to the tech.
How difficult does that have to be as a technician after years of fixing all these cars and seeing problem after problem over and over and over again in so many patterns, and then someone comes in with an issue and you have no choice but to shut up and not say anything? That's got to be so difficult, but man, you can spot them from a mile away.
Yeah. Imagine being the tech that gets that RO and it's wrong.
Oh, great. Yeah, so there's no
were
win.
you supposed to not diagnose it and just replace the part?
Yeah.
Ends up no, you kind of got to do double work, right?
Yeah. Jeremy wrote it.
Okay, I have 11.
I can't
and
wait.
mostly just because I like odd numbers, so 10 feels off to me.
Somebody just commented that the other day. They're like, "Wait a minute, why was our list even?"
Hate even lists. I like odd. You know what my favorite number is? Do people have favorite numbers? Is that a weird thing to say?
I think so. I don't have one particular, but 3.
17.
Why do you think 17?
Because it's the middle of the roulette table, and I've won a lot of money on roulette with 17.
It's also a prime number.
Number 11. The should always be a quick lube advisor. should never move out of quick lube.
The lifetime quick lube job.
Barely can do that.
Yeah.
Barely can do that.
Oh, that's funny.
Always a quick lube.
That anything more like the second that it's like an oil change, a rotation, and God forbid they put like brake fluid on it or something like that, and they're like, okay, that's too much. Can somebody else help me with that?
You know what's funny too is like there's advisors that are on the quick lube for like a year, and at the end of the year they don't know anything about the cars.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Like you would think that in that scenario they would have learned enough about the cars that they could segue to a regular shop advisor. And by the way, I don't condone having quick lube advisors. I think that it's the worst scenario ever to have a quick lube. But when you do, it's interesting how they don't. Sometimes they don't evolve.
Yeah,
they're just doing oil changes. If they sell something, they hand it off. So they're never really closing it out, or
Well, it's the same thing with the quick lube tech. They don't see the progression, right?
Yeah.
They're just stuck in that closed loop.
But it's interesting how a quick lube tech that does some brakes, does some alignments, gets some other stuff, how much more inspired they are.
Yeah.
Sparks their creativity.
Yeah. I was trying to, as we're kind of wrapping this thing up, I was like, okay, do I do a joke to end it? And so I've been starting to write a joke about leeches, but it sucked.
We'll see you next time on Service Drive Revolution. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Service Drive Revolution. We're uploading new stuff every day, so make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, call 8333-ASK-SDR and we'll answer your question on the show. That's 8333-ASK-SDR. For special deals on our books and training, head over to offers.chriscollinsinc.com. Now that's offers.chriscollinsinc.com. I'm Chris Collins, and I'll see you in the next video.